Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to do a long-term 1-year update on my TypeA 11.5-inch Pro. Before we do that, disclaimers and disclosures. What's my relationship with TypeA? When I first got the gun, I just bought it to test it out, and then I became a dealer, and I actually sell a good number of TypeA rifles. So I do make money selling these guns. I obviously like them. I stand behind them. Nothing's perfect, so I'll talk about, some potential drawbacks of these guns, but, take that with a grain of salt then, knowing that I do make money selling these guns. So getting into it, I did a full review on this gun when it was a pistol. It's an SBR now. Last year, I talked about TypeA, the parts that they made, the different tiers from standard, pro, contractor, all that stuff. I'll put it here or here. I don't want to make this video too long, so I'm not going to get into all the details. I just want to do an update specifically on this 11.5-inch Pro. So when I got the gun, well, let's just start at the front here. I have a Sandman S on it, which has lived pretty much on this gun since I got it. The one thing that I will say about TypeA is they are very accommodating. So standard, their guns come with an ASR compatible brake that they make. I don't have any silencer coke cans or ASR compatible cans, and I despise muzzle brakes. It's just obnoxious and loud, especially on a 5.56 gun. It seems unrequired. So when I order all my guns now from TypeA, I get them with a dead air 3-prong flash hider, because a lot of people have dead air chemo products, and if they don't, at least a 3-prong flash hider is going to be better on a gun, especially a gun that's, under 18 inches or 16 inches, than a loud ass brake. So 3-prong flash hider, dead air Sandman S pretty much lives on this gun. This is the Pro, which means it has the stainless steel barrel, the 30 position adjustable gas block, and the titanium nitride bolt carrier, which is the upgrade over the standard gun, which has a black vanadium barrel, I think it's what it's called, standard gas block, and black BCG. So overall, after a year, I've got 7,500 to 10,000 rounds through it. Not an insane round count, but I will say this gun is still very accurate. It is very smooth shooting, and the ability to adjust the gas for me is a positive. I really am not going to talk about the stainless steel barrel because I'm not like a super nerdy guy. I don't really get into the details on cold hammer forged, chrome lined, vanadium, whatever types of barrels. I'm not that knowledgeable on the different types of barrels. All I can tell you, 7,500 rounds, a lot of M193, a lot of M855. Gun is still as accurate as the day I got it. The adjustable gas block makes it really nice to be able to tweak the gas depending on how dirty the gun is. I'm not going to say I tweak the gas based on having a suppressor on or not. I adjust it so that it runs without the can, okay? And then I open it up like a half twist more than that. So when I put the can on and I have the extra back pressure on it, am I potentially overgassed? Possibly. If you look at that little, ejection chart that shows anything that's forward of 3 o'clock when it's ejecting means it's overgassed. Yeah, it consistently ejects just forward of 3 o'clock with the can on it, but I don't know how much I really believe that chart as far as being overgassed, because there's so many different, things that come into play. The ammo that you're using, can or not, the length of the gas system, the bolt carrier, the buffer weight, the buffer spring. I mean, you can change buffer weights and springs and see that ejection pattern change as well. I mean, even the tension on your extractor can make a difference. So I'm not really super into that chart. I'm going to do some tests and see, maybe make a video on that with different springs and the same gassing and see what happens there. But anyway, long story short, the adjustment is nice. And the first 2,500 rounds, I didn't clean the gun deep, and actually I haven't deep cleaned the gun. I would just keep putting oil on it. I had the Sandman on it almost completely for those first 2,500 rounds. I did a Chris Costa carbine course, and after the second day, so right around I think I was right around 1,500 to 2,000 rounds without cleaning with the can on it. I did start to have some stovepipes. Now, what was nice is I didn't have to break the gun down and clean it. I just took the can off, opened up the gas, added some oil, put the can back on. Thing ran like a top after that, and then I cleaned it and was able to, tweak the gas back down. So that was nice to not have the gun completely shit the bed, and I was able to, just tweak the gas, add some oil, and rock and roll. Now, when I first got it, talking about handguard still, the 11.5 came with an SPR style rail that was the same rail length as on their 10.5s. Since then, they have made 11.5 specific SPR rails, which if you're not familiar with it, it's pick lock, so it has 4-sided Picatinny at the end and then 7-sided M-lock in the middle and M-lock in between. They've also made an 11.5 Slim, which is just 7-sided M-lock. And don't quote me on this, but I think they even have an 11.5 quad rail, which is sick. I love quad rails. But I switched this off for the 9.5-inch handguard, so the handguard that normally goes in the 10-inch Slim, because for me, I was having trouble fitting a hand stop onto the Slim or onto the SPR style rail based on how long it was where I wanted it at. And the hand stop really helps me to pull that gun into my shoulder a little bit more. I mean, obviously I can just squeeze down on the gun, but the harder I squeeze it, the more I start to shake, and I don't get as good of a sight picture consistently. So having this hand stop is pretty crucial for me, and a Slim handguard makes that possible. But it's nice now that they have, full length SPR rails for 11.5, so you don't see this extra barrel. It's not that big a deal, but aesthetically, it's really pleasing when you put the can on and you don't see that extra barrel there. Moving on down the gun, going to the upper. They make their own upper. Go watch the other video. Shoot, I'll just tell you right now, because you're probably not going to go watch the other video. They make their own rails, barrels, bolt carrier groups, uppers, lowers, safeties, triggers, some pins, I believe, charging handle. I'm actually using an aftermarket charging handle, you could say. This one has little holes drilled in it for extra gas because I run a high back pressure can, the Sandman S. But even without it, with their standard charging handle, this is not an overly gassy gun, especially since you can, tweak the gas that's coming back with that adjustable gas block. So the upper is great. Their ambi charging handle, like I said, this is not theirs, but theirs looks very similar. It used to be skeletonized. I believe their new one that they just released a few months ago is not skeletonized, but whatever, like I don't care if it's skeletonized or not. Skeletonized parts don't do much for me. Bolt carrier, haven't had any issues, haven't replaced any parts. Ejection, still great. I've taken it apart to clean it once and everything looks good. The wear patterns look decent on it. The only thing I will say is titanium nitride looks cool, it cleans off well, but for visibility purposes, I'm fine with a black BCG. In fact, if I had my druthers, I would get everything in the semi-pro, which is going to be the black barrel and the black BCG with the adjustable gas block. So it's kind of in between the standard and the pro, but they don't have stainless or the standard black barrels in every barrel length. I think just 10.5 and 16. So, beggars can't be choosers on that. Moving down to the lower. Oh, I guess we'll talk about this real quick. My setup, I originally would run a LPVO with offset red dot on here. I've since switched to a hollow sun. If you hate Chinese products, that's fine. I get it, I do too, but the hollow sun red dot here has the ACSS reticle with a built-in BDC. When I add in this EOTech magnifier on the Unity tactical mount, it works very, very well, out to distances of 300-400 yards, which is all I really shoot. So moving down to the lower, here's where things, I have had some consistent issues. They use anti-walk pins on the lower, and the anti-walk part doesn't really work all the time. So I will say that on every gun I've shot personally, after about 1,500 to 2,500 rounds, those pins are definitely starting to walk out. So I do take the screws off, put Loctite on them, and put them back on. These are not the screws that it came with and the pins and all that, because I went to put Loctite on these ones after they started to back out, and I'm not super mechanically inclined. I cross-threaded it, totally screwed it up, so I had to grab different pins from my bin O parts, put these on, and haven't had an issue. Ambi safety, this is theirs, they make it, it's fantastic. 90, 45, I mean, there's nothing I would change about it at all. It has stayed, I Loctited the screws, so I haven't had any issues with the screws backing out, which I've seen on some Ambi safeties that use Allen. These are Torx wrench screws. No issues there. The trigger, fantastic. It's a 2-stage trigger. They make it in-house. I'll ghost it. 4.5 pounds. All right, here we go. There's the reset. And then you're back on the wall and it goes. I love 2-stage triggers, specifically theirs. They have a little screw deal inside the trigger. When you take it apart, it's different. That I believe it captures the disconnector and kind of keeps it in place. So I don't know. It just seems to be very consistent. It doesn't gum up like I've had on other triggers, like some Geisley triggers, and like the Ambi safety has stayed exactly the same as far as like the feel on it the whole time I've had it. And I have had Radians gum up, but I don't know if that's a function of the safety or just the overall gun and how much crap is getting into the back there. Like I said, this was originally a pistol. The lower, so I got a new lower. I wanted to put an SBR lower on it and put the B5 system stock, B5 systems grip. Love them, wouldn't change a thing there. The reason I did that is the pistol lower that I had, I ended up putting it on a CQBR upper that they sent me. I'll talk about that in a future video. But it had a Law tactical folder on it, and I found that the overall length, the Law folder and the pistol, it just didn't make sense for it to be a pistol with a folder, because this gun is, I mean, it's not gigantic, but it is getting on the larger side. So I swapped off the lowers, and it just stays like this, and it's a great gun. My experience with TypeA has been fantastic. If there's any issues, they get right on it. But I'll tell you this right now, 11.5. This gun, this 11.5 inch Pro, has been my go-to gun until a few months ago when I got their 10.5 inch CQBR. So this is now not, you know, number one. This is not BAE, what do they call it? BAE before all others. This is not BAE anymore. This is like, you know, definitely backup gun or secondary gun. I have that CQBR, which is my favorite gun, but outside of, it's still TypeA. Outside of that, this is a great gun. You hand it to people. It's super soft shooting. It just gets the job done, and I've had zero issues except for those anti-walk pins walking out. And I know by the time this video comes out, there may be Ambi lowers, something that they're offering, and you know, we'll see if that's a cool thing. So if you're looking for one, you can talk to TypeA, call me. I've got, you know, orders coming in pretty consistently, and definitely can get you set up with a pretty dope gun.